On November the 15th, 2006, global media was changed forever when a new 24-hour news channel, AlJazeera English, took to the airwaves.
It's November the 15th, day one of a new era in television news.
I'm Shuli Ghosh.
And I'm Sami Zaidan. This is Al Jazeera.
In 2006, the international media landscape was vastly different than it is today. International television news was dominated by CNN and BBC World, streaming video was a brand new technology, and social media virtually non-existent. Western audiences were used to consuming news through a strong Anglo-American filter, and the launch of a 24-hour cable channel headquartered in the Middle East and broadcasting in English was a major event. Back when AlJazeera English launched, there were just a handful of international news channels broadcasting in English, and most of them already well-established networks. Moscow had just recently launched Russia Today, their own version of a 24-hour English-language news channel, but that network was struggling to gain traction. The landscape did not seem to be ripe for yet another player. Despite the challenges, when AlJazeera English launched, something interesting happened. People began to actually watch the network. As AlJazeera English began to gain traction with Western viewers, other agencies began to emulate the AlJazeera model. Over the next decade, literally dozens of new broadcasters would take to the airwaves, all competing for a slice of a market that just a few years prior didn't even exist. AlJazeera English arguably created a proof of concept for the market of international English-language 24-hour news when they launched AJE in 2006.
And in fact, viewership of Al Jazeera is going up in the United States because it's real news. You may not agree with it, but you feel like you're getting real news around the clock instead of a million commercials and, arguments between...
That was, at the time, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton speaking at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in 2011. Clinton was speaking about the role that Al Jazeera played in their coverage of the Arab Spring uprising in 2011, something that the network received high praise for. Clinton's words described a phenomenon that would be observed across the Western world over the coming years: the acceptance of Al Jazeera English into mainstream Western journalism. Just a few months after Clinton's speech, in late 2011, the ABC in Australia began carrying full Al Jazeera English newscasts overnight on their 24-hour cable channel, ABC News 24. In 2012, Australia's main pay TV provider Foxtel made Al Jazeera English available to subscribers. Canada's CRTC had authorized Al Jazeera English for distribution in Canada way back in 2009, and by 2011 the channel was available on all major cable and satellite carriers in the country. The following year, Al Jazeera English was added to the lineup of channels carried on the UK's Freeview platform. Previous to that, it was already available to Sky satellite subscribers and on Freesat. But the addition of Al Jazeera English to Freeview meant that the channel was now available to virtually 100% of households in the United Kingdom receiving television broadcast signals. The channel also remains available for wide distribution on TV distributors across Europe, Asia, and New Zealand. While Al Jazeera continued to pursue carriage for its new network on cable and satellite systems across the globe, it was also growing its audience online, one of the first mainstream news agencies to do so. Way back in 2009, visitors of Al Jazeera's official webpage would have noticed a new button on the right-hand side of the page, a link to the live stream of the channel. At that time, internet streaming of mainstream news channels was a relative rarity, and Al Jazeera was catering to a brand new audience, viewers who did not have a traditional cable TV subscription. As the years rolled on, Al Jazeera expanded its internet offerings, all the while growing its audience online. In 2011, during the Arab Spring uprising, online viewership of the channel within the United States alone surpassed 1.5 million. Hugely impressive numbers for a channel that was still unavailable to most subscribers of cable TV and satellite in the United States. In 2015, Al Jazeera began live streaming on YouTube. While AJE continued to increase its viewership both online and on TV systems, the channel was also experimenting with new ways of engaging its audience using online media. And the answer was found in a new program called The Stream. The Stream is a one-of-a-kind program that started airing on AlJazeera English in mid-2011. It had a stated goal of creating a program to engage viewers. The Stream currently airs daily and uses social media to allow viewer participation in the program. The program, though, not only allows viewers to voice their opinions, but also direct the topics covered in the show. The Stream continues to be popular to this day. As successful as AlJazeera English's rise has been, it was not without its difficulties. Enter the case of the AlJazeera 3. In December of 2013, 3 AlJazeera English journalists, Peter Gresta, Mohammed Fahmy, and Bahar Mohammed, were arrested by Egyptian authorities on trumped-up charges of terrorism. The trio was subjected to a sham trial and sentenced to heavy prison time. AlJazeera's response to the crisis was swift and decisive. The network, along with other international broadcasters, staged an unprecedented social media campaign with the intent of freeing the trio. AlJazeera also kept up the pressure on the air, reminding viewers during every single newscast about the journalists' imprisonment. The 3 journalists were kept locked up by Egypt for nearly 2 years before being released in 2015. And after his release, Mohammed Fahmy has been very vocal about what he calls mistreatment by the AlJazeera media network. Fahmy is currently suing AlJazeera in a British Columbia court. Despite the success of AlJazeera English around the world, despite the channel's growing viewership online, the channel's owners wanted more: to crack the US TV market. When AlJazeera English initially launched, it was clear that the intent was to grab viewership in the United States. However, during those early months in 2006, negotiations with Comcast, Dish Network, and other key US TV distributors broke down, and the channel never saw widespread adoption within the country. Even as AlJazeera English gained widespread distribution and acceptance across Europe, Asia, and even Canada, it remained a relative rarity within the United States. AlJazeera would then try one more time to crack the US TV market, beginning in 2013. It was in January of that year that the AlJazeera Media Network made a major announcement that they would be purchasing the failing TV channel Current TV and would launch AlJazeera America, a brand new network aimed to bring AlJazeera English's reporting style to viewers in the United States. The channel launched on August 20th, 2013, and after having taken over the distribution contracts of the former Current TV, its initial distribution was to some 40 million US households. Despite that initial success, though, the new AlJazeera America experienced challenges in the US market. Several distributors threatened to pull carriage of the network, citing a breach of contract when the channel's ownership and broadcast style changed. AlJazeera was also heavily criticized for killing distribution of the AlJazeera English network within the US, both online and via free-to-air satellite, in an attempt to push viewers to watch the US version. During the 3 years that AlJazeera America has been in operation, viewing the international feed within the United States was nearly impossible, something that alienated the channel's original audience. Throughout its existence, AlJazeera America struggled to gain traction with US viewers. Many of them were distrustful of the AlJazeera name. On April 30th, 2016, AlJazeera America went dark, signing off for a final time. Online access to the live stream of AlJazeera English was restored on September 6th. However, AJE still remains missing from most TV distributors within the United States. Throughout its decade of operation, AlJazeera English has retained a very consistent style on the air, something that is extremely rare in today's world of fast-paced broadcast journalism. The music, on-air graphics, intro package, and set design are all very similar to when the network launched back in 2006. AlJazeera English has clearly found a winning format and does not feel it is necessary to reinvent itself in order to grab the attention of new viewers. AlJazeera English launched back in 2006 to a world that was vastly different than the one we know today. Over its decade in operation, the channel has helped to create a new genre of television news, gained mainstream acceptance in a Western world, and embraced brand new internet streaming technologies. Despite its successes, though, the decade has not been entirely smooth sailing. There was the mess of Al Jazeera America and the controversy leading up to the imprisonment of 3 of its journalists in 2013. Nevertheless, though, the past 10 years have been mostly successful for Al Jazeera English, and here's to looking forward to yet another decade of journalism from the network. For iNet, this is Christopher reporting.